Hello and welcome to Offstage. My name is Shamanabia, and in this episode, we will be talking to Grant and Alec from the band Forsaking Fate. Hello and welcome to Offstage. Today we are talking to Grant and Alec from the band Forsaking Fate.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey
What's
guys,
up?
you guys are a metal band. So how did you guys get into this?
Suppose through many years of perseverance, but we just well, from my side, I've basically just been jamming, for many years. A few bands here and there, on and off.
Yeah, from my side, it was weird. Like growing up, I didn't really have a musical interest. I mean, I played piano when I was very young, like 7 to the age of 13, and then after that, I kind of wrote off music because I was so used to playing like for like exams, or so I couldn't actually get into enjoying music, listening to it, and yeah, when I got a little bit older, later in my teenage years, I discovered metal, and since then I've been hooked.
What made you guys decide to physically go into metal? Because Alec, you just said that you've listened to metal, so this is obviously a genre that you've grew fond of. But what made you guys decide that this is definitely the genre of music that you want to create?
Basically, yeah, since I first found metal, like it's basically something I've just basically fell in love with, you know what I mean, since I first heard it. And yeah, ever since then, it's always been my preferred genre of music. Basically got a love for music, and for that to be at the top of it all, that's basically it.
From my side, it was an extremely motivating thing for me to pick up an instrument after playing piano for so long. So discovering metal was like the new inspiration for me to start playing instruments again, when like before it was considered a chore. Now it's considered joy.
Definitely. So obviously this is not the easiest genre of music to make. So how would you guys say that you have prepared yourself up until this point to create metal music? And an example, so Grant, how have you prepared your voice to be able to go through all of this phases of creating metal music?
As I said, I've always had a sort of a love and a sort of passionate sort of feelings towards it, so the driving, the hard and fast sort of riffage, it's always been something that I've been drawn towards. And then obviously since I've been playing instruments, and particularly the guitar, you've always been trying to like recreate your favorite ones from your favorite bands and performers and all of that. So you kind of always pushing the envelope in a sense, which obviously improves your skill level to some degree. And then also, yeah, from a songwriting point of view as well, basically the same applies. In terms of voice preparation, it's difficult because I've never really, seen myself as a vocalist, or set out to be a vocalist. It's just something that kind of ended up happening. And I kind of thought, okay, well, that's more or less the sound I'm after and I want to go for, and obviously listening to various sort of vocalists over the years, etc., you kind of just seek out and learn the techniques you need to apply those things to get to sort of more or less where you're headed, and the sound you're trying to produce, so yeah.
It's really cool, like how you master that with your voice, because obviously it's not just for everybody, and I think it's really great that you have mastered that and obviously put that into a band. So Grant, would you say that being a metal vocalist has in a way sort of changed your normal speaking voice, or not damaged it but kind of like changed it in a sense?
I wouldn't say so. As I say, you learn that there's specific techniques you can kind of apply, and you do these things in a specific way as to not damage or alter your current sort of vocal structure in any way. I mean, obviously every now and then there's a harsh sort of scream or whatever that naturally comes out, but I mean it's no different to everyday life, when you have to scream, I suppose. So yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's particularly changed in any way. It's kind of just broadened the kind of things you can do with your vocals. You know, it's just kind of opened a few more doors as to the possibilities that you actually have, and the sounds you can create. You know, with just your vocal cords.
So obviously the first time that you have done this, was it kind of like oh my word, I can do this? Like, this is what my voice can do? This is so insane.
Not necessarily. It was more the other way around for me. It was like, oh, you know, I'm setting out to try and sound a specific way, and then you give it a go, and it was like, oh, what the hell was that? You know what I mean? I need to rethink this. So yeah, it was definitely the opposite for me. Yeah.
Alec, how would you say you prepare yourself to perform live? And as bassist, how do you protect your, if we can say, like, money makers in a sense?
That's an interesting question. Preparing for live, it's always like just tons of practice, you know, just sitting down. Luckily, in this day and age, the internet has made the world small, so we can practice. And technology, the internet and technology has made the world small. So luckily we can practice, because I actually live in a different city to Grant and Rory. I live in Johannesburg and they live in East London. And that's like a crazy thing to think about. When we play together, we get together for a practice, you know, before playing a show. But that's because we're all, you know, like very responsible for what we bring to the band, you know. I guess preparing for a stage, it's for a stage performance, it's tons of practice by ourselves. Grant and Rory can practice together, but for me personally, it's tons of practice playing along with the recordings or playing along with interactive versions of the tabs. Just practice, practice, practice. In terms of protecting my money makers, I mean, I work a pretty sedate job, so it's not like I'm like working in construction where I really stressed about my hands getting damaged. I sit behind a keyboard all day and hack out code. So luckily I'm sort of blessed in that way, that protecting my money makers is just something that happens intrinsically.
For me personally, it is so insane just thinking about the fact that both of you, so Grant, you mentioned before the interview that you are an engineer, and Alec, you just said that you sit behind a computer all the time. So it is for me so like amazing and like completely awestruck by the fact that you guys have this very quiet kind of job, and then you create metal music, which is amazing that you guys can balance out the two, like your lifestyle and then your personal lifestyle. So the question that I have for you guys is, how do you find the balance between the two of us?
Yeah, from my side, when I sit and I work, I have different types of music playing, but most of the time it's metal. Sometimes it's like synth wave or dark synth music, and sometimes it's classical music. It just generally depends on the level of focus that I need. It's strange to say, but like technical death metal seems to be a very good focusing music because it's so chaotic and you can't really focus on the vocals anyway, that it acts as like a stimulant, at least for my brain, when I need to focus. But yeah, generally it's kind of a mix. But yeah, I listen to music basically all day while I work.
Grant, how do you find the balance between all of this?
I tend to not really, I mean, listening to music while I'm working doesn't really, it kind of distracts me in the sense I tend to be drawn to the actual music, and then I lose focus of what I'm actually doing. So I don't really listen to metal while I work. However, I am on the go a fair amount. So obviously driving here, driving there, during the day, metal's definitely on the go, which definitely helps. But I find it's also a nice sort of release from the day-to-day stresses, or just in general working. You want to let your hair down when you get home. You want to release all that pent-up energy or whatever from the day. So yeah, I find it an incredible sort of escape from the everyday norm.
Alec, you mentioned earlier that you do not live in the same area as them, because you said that you live in Johannesburg and they live in East London, or not they, but Grant and Rory live in East London. So how did it happen that you became part of the band?
My fiance Chelsea and I used to run a couple of metal shows. Well, there was 2 annual shows that we used to run down in Joburg, and I can't remember which iteration, but the guys at Forsaking Fate reached out to us and said, we want to jam one of your shows. So yeah, we hooked them up with a slot, and they played, they blew us away. We've sort of made us a standing, repeating show. And then when they had some internal politics with their previous bassist, right before a show down in Joburg, Grant reached out to me and said, listen, you're in other bands. You seem like you're dedicated to playing music. Do you think you could learn our set? And I was like, well, we've got just over a week, so why not? And yeah, basically jammed with them at that show. And then a couple of shows afterwards, more in like a sessional capacity. Earlier this year, they said, do you want to make this thing more of an official working relationship? And I was like, cool. Yeah, 100% count me in. I like the music. So yeah, it was just natural from there on.
So obviously you guys had the arrangement that you would not be part of the band like a full-time, because obviously you are in a different province than what they are. So the COVID hasn't affected you like it did other bands, because obviously this was your way of life pre-COVID.
Well, it has affected us because the idea, well, the thing with them living in East London is that they would have to travel mostly to play shows anyway, and I would travel as well. So when I accepted to become like a more fully fledged member of the band, it was in like a full-time capacity. The impact of COVID was the fact that like a whole bunch of shows that we had planned across the country had to be, like scrapped. We were due to play Pit of the Polo in Durban. We were going to play a show in Cape Town, and I'm sure we were going to have a show here this side in Joburg again. So yeah, it kind of derailed that. From the other perspective, yeah, like it hasn't really changed much, I guess.
So it's really cool that, in the fact that you guys managed all of this, and it's really sad that you guys couldn't perform the shows that you've wanted to and have prearranged. But what do you guys think your plans are post-COVID?
Post-COVID, yeah, as Alec mentioned, we had a few shows sort of lined up, or if not lined up in the sort of upworks. So the plan is obviously to resume that. We recently released an EP, and we did our EP launch show in Johannesburg. So, and we've played Johannesburg a few times, sort of in the more recent future. So the plan was to take our performance to sort of the rest of the country, particularly Cape Town, obviously Durban, KZN, as well as Bloemfontein. So yeah, resume that, I think, would be the first sort of physical plan of action, with the sort of major restrictions that COVID has put on us, particularly for travel and shows in terms of interaction and all of that. So yeah, for sure.
As a band, what would you say is one of the shows that you definitely want to play at, or a festival that you want to play at?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think on the list was definitely Winterfest or Summerfest for us. So definitely that. If not that, definitely the larger shows, like along the lines of the Ram productions, definitely for me.
Definitely. And Alec, what would you say is your dream festival to play at?
It's very, very difficult to choose. There's so many like really cool ones. Like I'd love to play Wacken. From my side, I really would like to just play overseas, whether it's like a small pub or a massive stage, at a festival. I think it would be really cool to be able to take this music to a different audience, maybe Europe or Japan, do a mini tour there as well. But dream festival is probably Wacken or Rockstad or the 70,000 tons of metal show on a cruise ship, Those are probably, those are my pipe dreams.
So, Grant, how did you guys decide? Because you and Rory co-founded the band Forsaking Fate. So how did you guys decide on the name?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always like the whole notion of forsaking one's fate, one's predetermined sort of destiny it's always sort of been a resounding sort of theme for me. So I think I had like previous songs years ago, you know, with similar sort of titles, and then, you know, we were obviously, we'd restarted this band, or started this particular, you know, band, and then yeah, we were just sort of thinking, you know, of names, and then we were kind of writing the first song. Yeah, and obviously the lyrics sort of just came, and then, you know, it's kind of just, yeah, as I say, it just sort of rang out with the previous sort of themes that have always been there, you know. So yeah, it just stuck.
That's pretty cool. So I just read through your website, and it says here that you guys have won an award for your metal music. So can you tell us more about that?
That wasn't for this particular band. You know, Rory and I have been jamming for a fair amount of time. We've had, you know, previous projects on the go. The most recent one prior to Forsaking Fate was a band called Amidst the Ashes. Yeah, and yeah, I think we won Best Newcomer in, I think it was the very first Summer Music Awards. I think it was 2014 or 2015.
That is so insane. So obviously, just going to that band, how, as a band, did it feel to be one of the best newcomers and be like, okay, cool, this is only the start for you?
Oh, it was great, you know. I mean, us being obviously from East London, you know, nobody really knows even where we are, you know, in the rest of the country. So we were still very, very new. We had a great lineup, and the band was just ready to take off, you know. So being recognized countrywide that early was, I mean, yeah, it was great, you know. It was just such a pity that the band never took off due to various reasons and complications. But yeah, very humbling, very awesome. So yeah, it was great.
So what would you guys say is one of the most challenging parts of being in a band?
Oh wow, that's a difficult one. Yeah, I suppose just time. You know, me in particular, I got day jobs. I got a lot of things on the go. So yeah, getting enough time to practice as much as you want, I'd say, is the biggest challenge for me.
I guess from my side, it's dealing with other band people. Like, luckily with Forsaking Fate, it's been a really great experience. But anyone that's ever been in a band will tell you that members come and go because of commitment issues, you know, and that can be stressful and difficult. But like I said, this seems to be the winning triumvirate, that we're all pretty committed dudes to the music that we're making.
Definitely. So you guys are managed by David, or DeVo as we all know him. So what has the journey been like for you guys, and how does it feel to be managed by someone?
I think it's great, you know, working with our DeVo, it's fantastic. You know, we reached out to him, you know, when we were releasing our EP, because obviously we just wanted to push it as far and wide as we could. And you know, I'm not too great with the whole marketing thing, so I definitely was looking for a bit of assistance. So yeah, we heard about him, we reached out to him, and yeah, it's been history, man. It's been so awesome working with a guy. I think he's definitely pushed us to new heights. I think he's going to continue to push us to even further heights. Yeah, great guy. And yeah, I mean, awesome. Been fantastic working with the guy.
He is pretty dope. Alec, can you comment on working with DeVo?
I mean, I sort of joined in a more full-time capacity after the fact. My experience with him has been a little bit more recent, but it has been great, you know, like working with someone that deals with the stuff that you don't always want to as a musician. I mean, I'm in quite a few other bands, and it's nice to not have to worry about this band, you know, because I know it's in good hands.
Definitely. So saying that you're in a bunch of different bands, so in what other bands are you, and are you also the bassist in the other bands that you're in?
No, it's a wide variation. So I play guitar, and I do the clean and a little bit of harsh vocals for a symphonic death metal band called Certus. I'm the lead harsh vocalist for a progressive death metal band called Nerve Zero. And I'm like the front man bassist for a comedic death metal band called Momentum. And those are just like the live bands that I play for. I then have like a ton of like studio projects. More recently, I've come out with a symphonic death metal, black and death metal album under my like solo project called Incarnate Deity.
That is, it just sounds like you have so much going on. So once again, how do you balance being in so many different bands and being involved in so many different projects?
It's interesting. At the moment, it hasn't been that difficult because the live bands we haven't had the opportunity to practice or to, you know, like play. And that can be a thing that takes up a lot of time, is like meeting up in a band room to practice and also preparing for live shows. So that stuff has been quite quiet, which has allowed me like time to like write for those projects. Whereas, so I write a lot of music for the other stuff, whereas I know these guys have it covered for Forsaking Fate, and I contribute where I can, but it's not like I have to drive it, which is really nice, you know.
Definitely. So going back to the fact that you also have to write for them. So this question is for both of you, but what is your writing process?
Well, yeah, I think I pretty much write most of the material. The concept basically, well, thus far the concept has started with me. And then myself and Rory basically hash it out in terms of the drums and the feel that the drums will give the song. Yeah, and then once that's done, I mean, I've basically just, you know, written the vocals thereafter. Yeah, so I suppose that's been it up until now. You know, with obviously Alec, with all the experience that he has in songwriting and all of that, I mean, it would be silly not to take advantage of what he can bring to the table. So, you know, with the next sort of iteration of music that we'll be putting out, we'll definitely be exploring a different sort of approach to the writing.
If you could put anything, like virtually anything, on a billboard, what would it be?
Well, probably Forsaking Fate.
Makes sense.
Yeah, definitely Forsaking Fate. It would be great to have like the t-shirt design, or, you know, like EP, or even some brand new artwork. I mean, if we can afford to put it on a billboard, we can probably commission new artwork. So yeah, like something to drive us forward, you know.
Who would you say are you when you are not on stage?
Whoa, who am I? I am me. No, I don't know. I'm Grant. Yeah, I'm plain old Grant, man. Just cruising through.
Nice. Alec, who would you say you are when you're not on stage or performing?
I think it's weird because like I'm 6'5", I have long hair, and I'm quite a big bulky fellow, and my offstage persona is very different to my onstage persona, because I'm like a gentle giant offstage, but on stage there's so much energy, there's so much anger in the music that it's you know, it's only natural to have that sort of aggressive stage presence. So I think if you look at me, I'm like basically a 180 of what I'm on stage, you know. Family person versus, and like family and kind and just lovable giant, but on stage I'm this angry killing machine.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and I cannot wait to see what you guys achieve. I mean, you guys are so busy with everything. You have amazing careers that you do, and then you create like mind-boggling music. So I can't wait to see what you guys achieve next. And once again, thank you so much for your time to be on stage. Well, to be with me on the off stage. Anyways.
Thank you so much for having us. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Thank you so much for having us.